when he said in his interview that I was one of his biggest motivations when he crashed to get back up and get going, and to say this in an interview after was pretty cool.
Around the necklace, is that a ring?
Yeah, it's my wedding ring. Because when I crashed and broke my arms just before Paris-Nice this year, when the ambulance came to try and help me get everything off, my rings were stuck, so they had to really pull them off, and I actually lost one of my rings. So now I was like, from now on I just keep my wedding band on my necklace instead of on my fingers, because it's quite dangerous. But yeah, I couldn't do nothing. My wife had to do everything. There's 2 casts on my arms. I couldn't even dress myself. So it was, yeah, really...
How do you cope with it mentally? Because it's quite difficult.
Yeah, well, after last year with my embolia in my lungs, and now this year with 2 broken arms, let's say I've become pretty resilient. But yeah, it was difficult, especially when you're watching all these races that you prepared for the whole off season. We're in great shape after altitude training camp in Tenerife, and then 3 days before the real season started in Paris-Nice and San Remo and Classics, a massive crash happened. So basically watched all those races on TV, which was even more difficult.
And you still watched?
Yeah, I didn't want to, but thankfully my good mate Tadej was doing really well, so I mean it was nice to watch him put on a show, and he was really supportive through my whole recovery, contacting me almost every day. So and he basically said, oh, when should I attack in San Remo and Flanders and and Strade? And I was like, oh, I think the TV comes on around this time. And he's like, oh, okay, I'll attack here. And he actually did and won. So that was pretty cool. Definitely made it more interesting to watch, that's for sure. But a bit sad at the same time, because as much as it was nice to watch, obviously you want to be there yourself. You know? So San Remo was probably the hardest one to watch, but definitely the most interesting, the way it all unfolded. It's difficult because it depends how bad the crash was. It's hard to really understand from the TV how bad the crash actually was, and if his bike was okay, and how the peloton was really riding, because yeah, obviously we all know how quickly that run-in goes through the Las Capas and the 𝗵𝗲𝗹𝗶𝗁 all the way to 𝗵𝗵𝗲𝗃. It's a full-on bunch sprint into the bottom of 𝗵𝗵𝗃. So honestly, knowing that race and doing it so many times, I think that's probably one of the most impressive things I've seen in cycling, to be able to come back and still do the performance that he did on 𝗵𝗵𝗃. It's just, yeah, honestly, knowing what it's like to be in that situation, even in the peloton, let alone being out the back and still dominating the way he did, was, yeah, mind-blowing. And I think that's one of the performances of the century, honestly. I think, especially like also that skin suit he was wearing to auction it off. I think it sold for what, 90,000 euros or something for his charity. It shows that performance was literally one in a century. And I mean, you can never really grasp how fast or the numbers that he's doing, or that someone is doing. So it definitely downplays it, but I can imagine for those guys that are actually in the race that really witnessed it firsthand, it must have been incredible. But I mean, yeah, it's pretty mind-blowing what happened in that race. But yeah, I think afterwards, when he said in his interview that I was one of his biggest motivations when he crashed to get back up and get going, and to say this in an interview after was pretty cool. I mean, at that time I was walking around 20k a day, because I couldn't obviously ride my bike because it was way too early. I just had my casts on and walking around Monaco, basically trying to keep fit and keep my head on my shoulders, keep myself sane basically. And yeah, walking was the best thing I could do to sort of, yeah, feel like I was still an athlete. And yeah, to clear my head, I basically just took my Apple Watch, put it in my hand that I could slightly hold, and yeah, just went walking and spent most of my days doing that. There was no real music or audio book or podcast that really could help with the situation, the mental state I was going through. So actually just the silence, because I mean, obviously it was amazing, all the positive messages and stuff I was getting on social media and on WhatsApp and everything, but at the same time getting all these messages, I sort of, you feel like you have to reply and say thank you to everyone, which is amazing, but at the same time it keeps replaying the situation over and over again in your head, and you sort of want to, at a point you want to just stop thinking about what happened, because it was quite traumatic for me also. So I think at a point I just wanted to sort of turn the page and just be alone and yeah, think about the positives rather than replaying the moments of the crash over and over again.